Hey everybody, this is the first in a series of videos explaining how to calculate a forecast in Excel. And first you want to think a little bit about, well, what is a forecast? Well, a forecast is prediction of the future based on previous data or historical experience and data. So in this example, and this is a file exhibit 18.4 initial that you should be able to download. What we're assuming here is we're operating a business and we're in, say, week 30 of the business's operation, and we want to predict week 31 how much do we think consumers or our customers are going to buy. And we want to make that prediction because if the more accurate our prediction is, the more cost efficient we're going to be. We want to produce enough to meet that demand. We don't want to produce too much, or we have a whole lot of excess inventory lie around. We also don't want to underestimate and produce too little that we won't be able to meet the demand. So the more accurate our forecast of next week's actual sales are going to be, the more efficient our operation will be. So what we've got here are 30 weeks of actual customer demand broken down by week. And you can see they seem to be going up, although sometimes they go down. The question is, well, next week, week 31, what do we think actual customer demand is going to be? So this first video is going to calculate these columns here, the simple moving averages. We're going to calculate a 3-week moving average and a 9-week moving average. And this is very straightforward. Basically, we're just saying that the forecast for week 4 for the 3-week moving average is going to be the average of the previous 3 weeks. And you might be wondering, like, well, gee, if we've got actual data here, why are we calculating the forecast for old data? And you'll see why in a later video. We're going to want to compare these different methods. We'll go through and see which one is most accurate. But we'll calculate the moving averages, and we will calculate it for next week, week 31 as well. But first, let's calculate what the 3-week moving average for week 4 would have been. Now, one thing about the simple moving average is you can't calculate it for the first few weeks, depending on how many weeks you're going to use for your average. So for the 3-week moving average, we can't calculate it for weeks 1, 2, and 3 because we don't have the 3 previous periods. We have to start in week 4. So let me go ahead and calculate the 3-week moving average for week 4. It's basic. There's 2 different ways you can do it. I'll do it the longer way, just to kind of explain what we're doing here, and then I'll show you a much faster way of doing it. But in week 4 here, so what am I in cell D9 here? I'm going to say, well, equal SUM. I'm going to sum up the previous 3 weeks of actual sales data and then divide by 3. So I've got equal sum of C6 through C8 divided by 3. And if I hit enter, you'll see, so the projection, the forecast rather, for week 4 using the 3-week moving average would be 1,067. And you can see here in week 4 our actual sales was 1,500. So this is not a particularly good forecast, but we'll see how future weeks go. Maybe it's better than we think. Now, one thing you'll notice here, Excel gives you this little warning here. It thinks you might have made a mistake with the formula, but we didn't. We're smarter than Excel, so you can just ignore that. Let me show you the faster way of doing that. This is the formula to calculate the average, kind of the slow old-fashioned way. You can just use the built-in average function in Excel, equal average of C6 through C8. That's what we'll do. you can see the same result, and it's just faster. Also, you notice up here the auto sum button. If you use the drop down list, one of the options is average here, so that's an even faster way of doing it. But whatever, I have the average calculation for the previous 3 weeks, and I'm going to drag that all the way down to week 31 there, and you can see that we've got a forecast here for every week that we have actual data. So later in a future video, we'll compare and see how good this method is. But you can see for week 31 here, with this method, we're predicting 2,333 sales in week 31. Then let's do the 9-week moving average. Now, to calculate the 9-week moving average, we need 9 previous weeks, so we can't calculate it for weeks 1 through 9. So we're going to start in week 10 here, and we're going to say average of the previous 9. So that's equals average of C6 through C14. Hit enter. Oops. Hit enter, and then copy that formula all the way down through week 31, and you can see we've got a very similar, slightly higher forecast using the 9-week moving average instead of the 3-week moving average. But it's basically it's a simple moving average. You are averaging the previous actual sales data to predict the next period's sales data. Let me go ahead over here. I set up this chart so we can plot this out. I'm going to right click and select data, and then I can check. I already set up all of the graphs that I want, and here we go. So the black line is our actual, the dotted blue is the 3-week, and the solid red is the 9-week. You notice they don't start until week 4 and week 10 respectively. But here you can see it looks like our averages are kind of lower than the actual. Sometimes they're higher, but on average they seem to be a little lower than our actual. And again, a later video we'll talk about how to calculate which one of these is a more accurate forecasting tool. So this is the first video. It's basically just calculating the simple moving averages for both 3 weeks and 9 weeks. And after you've made these changes, entered these formulas, go ahead and proceed on to the next video.